Hello and welcome to Iss Podcast Ko Kya Naam Do. So I decided for the 11th anniversary of Iss Pyaar Ko Kya Naam Do, why don't we have a little award ceremony? But before that, I want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to this channel and given your love. It's all about sharing the love in the fandom, and my heart just swells out. Secondly, there is a big, wonderful celebration going on in India forums. If you haven't checked that out already, go to the IPKKND forum at India forums, and over there you'll see a wonderful post, a full thread dedicated solely to IPK about celebrating the 11 years. There are wonderful creations on that post. Please check it out. And there's also an OS and a VM contest. So in case you want to read some good fan fictions at this point that talk about 11 years of IPK or watch some VMs, romantic VMs of Arnav and Cushy, I highly recommend you all to go and check it out at India forums. I will put the link below. So now, we will start this year's award ceremonies of IPK by giving the best character scene. The best NK scene. This is a hard try considering NK is almost always a floof ball. I think the best NK scene is this one moment that happens during Cushy's birthday. I know it's a very small moment and NK has much more brilliant scenes in the show, but I am someone who's always like what touched my heart. And it was this one moment during Cushy's birthday when everyone is giving her gifts. Arnav is being the constipated man that he is, unable to say happy birthday. But you have NK who, between all the galore and surprises, asking Cushy if she's feeling okay, if she's feeling fine.
Cushy ji, are you okay?
And I think the most beautiful part about it is that not many people ask Cushy if she's doing well. They either always see her happy or expect her to be happy. And then that's true friendship, to just ask someone if they're doing okay. So that just touched my heart. The next one, obviously, if I started with NK, number 2, the best Lavanya scene. Where do I begin? This character has one of the most satisfying arcs and satisfying scenes. She does amazing comedy, amazing emotional scenes, but if I have to give the award for the best Lavanya scene, it would have to be when Arnav and Lavanya are breaking up. Lavanya made me cry in that scene. The amount of maturity, grace, can you believe the actress Sana Makbul was 18, 19 years old? I mean, I was doing nothing when I was at that age, and she was acing this emotional scene with Arnav, which was all about how Lavanya was aware of the fact that this relationship is going to hell, it's going to doom. But she really wanted to cling to the last strands of whatever was remaining in it. Oh, my heart, yeah. Anyone who hasn't watched that scene, please go back and watch it. I think the way Lavanya switched from vulnerability to strength, to asking Arnav for a hug and then saying, yeah, I know you don't like it. It is such a painful, realistic take on a breakup that was written from the first episode. I mean, that scene itself was very well written, and I love the fact that it wasn't Cushy or it had nothing to do with Cushy, but I think that scene gave Lavanya its due, that she was not blind to the cracks of her marriage. She was just a desperate woman catching at the last hope left. Number 3 comes to best Mamaji scene. To be honest, this woman has the most amazing one-liners, and the power of those one-liners is that she can instantly turn a grievous, serious scene into something funny. The best Mami scene is this one that is actually tied with Mamaji. It's that when she's on the phone call talking to a Panditji for Akash, and Mamaji is talking about his trip from abroad. And then Mamaji actually thinks that Mamiji is kind of planning her own marriage. I think that was hilarious. I think the rapport between Mami and Mama was so good in that one scene. And I love the fact that how Mami just goes up to shut up. She is so offended her husband would think she would marry again. Well, considering that her husband never really took her stand for Miss Hello Hi Bye Bye. But I do find that scene very hilarious. It always cracks me up. And then we have Mamaji's arch nemesis, Buaji. Oh my god, I'm spoiled for choice over here. But I think one of my most favorite scenes is when Buaji gets upset that Arnav forgot Kushi's birthday. I mean, Kushi is upset, but no, Buaji is upset. She threatens him with a balan. She gets upset at him. She is miffed, and then she stuffs him with puris. Arnav has to work harder to get Buaji's forgiveness. I stand that lady. I love her. That one of also the only other characters to have a very satisfying arc. I think that was a hilarious scene. Khushi's happy birthday in general was an amazing track. So Buaji killed it for me. Killed it. And then we have the best Payal scene. Hands down, I don't even have to think twice about this. Is when Arnav comes to drop Khushi home because, I mean, he doesn't drop her, like she fainted. So he's actually like, leaving her at her house safely. But Payal has just lost it. She is furious, she is upset, and literally a Durga avatar emerges from her because she's so pissed at what Arnav has done. She does not see him as a savior, and I think that's what sold the show for me. Because Arnav is no savior if he was the one to have put her in that situation, even if unintentionally, because he's a man who goes around saying that I write everything. So he does not, does he? So I think that one scene, Payal asks such poignant questions.
आपके और किस बात का एहसान मानेंगे हम? इसे इस हालत में आप घर पे ले आए। इसका या इसकी सजा पूरी होगी ये सोचकर इसे छोड़ रहे इस बात के।
That Payal is something I wish was more there in the future. And obviously number 6 would be the best Akash scene. Because wherever there's Payal ji, there will be Akash ji. And I think one of my favorite Akash's scenes post-marriage, only time, फिर बेचारे को बैठा ही दिया. Like I feel so bad for Dogra because he's such a good actor and he understood Akash so well, but they really like underutilized him. But I love the way Akash deals with his mom. Because Arnav would yell, right? Arnav would yell or he would throw bitter words or he would be confrontational about it. But Akash deals with anger through logic. And the fact that he just stood quietly, he did not utter a word. He ate the fruit himself, and then he told his mom that he's fine. He's standing. He uses his mom's word. मैं खड़ा हूँ. I'm standing. I'm fine. Nothing has happened to me. You should eat it. I don't think you're well. I think you need to look after yourself. And the fact that आपकी तबीयत खराब है, like you are not well, that has a kind of a deeper meaning to it. And the fact that Akash is actually so silent, says so little, but his actions are so effective in that one scene. Loved him in that. And then we come to Akash's dearest older sister and, of course, Arnav's dearest older sister. Again, Anjali had so many great scenes. I do not know where to begin with. Daljit is a fantastic actor. I love her. In fact, the whole show has great actors. Like, we discussed this about a year ago. One of the best things about the show is that they're cast. So the best Anjali scene, for me, is the one where she loses her child. I know it's a very painful scene, but the acting, the sheer trauma and the levels of trauma that Anjali goes through in that one scene, it is written so beautifully. Her disbelief to realization that her child is no longer with her. Oof, dil tod diya yaar. That made me cry. It was so... it hurt so good in that one scene, to be honest. The best Sham scene. Where do I go with this, man? I can't even begin with how brilliant Sham is as a villain and how he compels us to believe that he can go to the extent of anything when it comes to him. I remember this one scene where I really liked him, and I kind of did not like the plot, but I really liked him. Was when Khushi goes to the office to warn Arnav, but it's Sham instead. The way Sham flips between knowing what Khushi will do to telling her almost as if they're almost exchanging pleasantries. That, oh, Khushi ji, like, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't try to warn Arnav. And then the way he switches to this devious mode of like, if you're if you're not going to do as I say, at least don't interrupt me at what I'm doing. Literally freaked me out. Like, the way Abbas brings that fear, seeps that fear into Sham, that one scene convinced me that this man can go to even more depths of terrible, terrible misdeeds. And the fact that he's intelligent, all of it is conveyed in that one scene. I would definitely say scenes like that of Sham is what I love. You see his brain working, you see the way he threatens, and you see how his threat has weight. Because Sham's one of the reasons why Sham is a brilliant villain is that whenever he says something, he's not always outrightly lying. His threats have, somewhere down the line, they have the weight of truth. Sham is playing on the fact that Arnav will not believe Cushy. In a very unfortunate circumstance, Arnav might actually end up believing what Sham says, but he will never believe what Cushy says, regardless of how he personally feels about things. And he's kind of right about that. So that scene, absolutely worth watching. Which is the best Arnav and Cushy scene? I have so many in mind. I think I begin all of my best awards with I have so many in mind. For me, the best Arnav and Cushy scene, this is not fair at how tough it is. Diwali. Yes. It is there are multiple things going on over there that is not correct. That is, Arnav is with another woman. He's actually committed to another woman. The scene is very sexual in nature. There were 101 reasons for it to go wrong. But the way they crafted intimacy in a crowd, the way we are also so lost in what Arnav and Cushy are doing that we are not seeing the rights and wrongs, and the moral boundaries are all grey for us. Because the show effectively traps us into what's happening between the two characters. We are feeling what the two characters are happening. Like the song Jadoo Hai Nasha Hai Madhoshiya, it's all about intoxication, magic, a little less sense of reality. I think that was beautifully established in that one scene. I do not question how these two people who can never get a word through to each other without kind of it being misunderstood or getting into a sparring battle end up nearly kissing each other. There is no question. It flows seamlessly, and kudos to everyone who was in the preparation of that. But that scene, Diwali, was a culmination of the fact that they lost each other, and there's also love. There is multiple emotions in layers, and I think it's beautiful to watch as the attraction, the lust, the love, the fact that Arnav and Cushy are on completely different emotional levels to each other, the way it breaks into a perfect heartbreak, it falls on so many right levels. And it is one of those scenes where a lot of people what would have happened if Arnav and Cushy kissed? It's one of those scenes that even if Arnav and Cushy kissed, we would have exactly seen what we saw in the show, and just 10 times worse. Because the whole point was that Arnav was running away from the sudden breach of intimacy that he had with Cushy. And I think there are very few points in the show where you do a what if, and then you see it gives you the same result. And I think that's why this is one of the most brilliant scenes in the show. Everyone go back, if not for the analytical way of how this whole sequence was beautifully executed, then at least to feast your eyes on Arnav and Cushy and Jadoo Hai Nasha Hai and them almost kissing. And talking of Arnav and Cushy, we have the best Cushy scene. My heart breaks because there are so many scenes where Cushy is absolutely phenomenal. And I think you all know which is my favorite scene. And yes, it is none other than the resignation scene. You see, when a track starts, we kind of hope for the characters to go somewhere when the track ends. And Cushy's character went to that end. And it was executed, that whole resignation scene where she gives her resignation to Arnav. It is so beautifully executed by Sanaya, the writers, the directors. The suspension of disbelief is so right that I don't question how Cushy reaches there and has the guts to suddenly yell at Arnav. No. We have been saying that how her patience has frayed over the days, how her naive innocent exterior has been hardened to realize that some people really need to be yelled at in their faces, especially when they deserve it. How, and we've seen a demo of that with her yelling at all the other, like, not yelling, but putting all her office colleagues, putting them in their place. So when this whole scene goes with Arnav, I love the way how the moment stretches into believable things that Cushy would do in an argument. It's very difficult to make an argument believable, and with Cushy they got this right. They did not give her sudden strength. You saw this coming, and Sanaya was flawless in it. I fell in love with Cushy. Arnav ka to chance hi nahi tha. So just watch that scene. It is so well written, so well written. You'll absolutely cherish it to the very end. And finally, the best Arnav scene. अब मैं कहाँ से शुरू करूँ? Let me give my typical statement of the fact that I am spoilt for choice. First of all, you have a good actor. Then you have a good director. You have a good writer. You're bound to have multiple great scenes. So I will tell you this. My hands down favorite and the best scene of Arnav that I will award is when Arnav gets to know that his sister is pregnant, and then he ends up crying on the streets. A lot of the show rests on Arnav's actions, motivations, his decision, and his feelings, because unlike other shows, this show is actually a lot from Arnav's perspective. So when Arnav learns about his sister's pregnancy, right when he's about to tell her that her husband is a fraud, is cheating on her actively, the way he is broken, he ages years in front of her face, in front of our face. He's unable to speak, he's unable to say anything, his eyes are watery, his sister mistakes it for his tears of joy. We can see, first of all, kudos to Barun for pulling that off. Man, he did so well in IPK. Someone go and tell him he acted really well in IPK. Yaar, bichare ko lagta hai that the only thing he did in IPK was what the. He did not do that. He also acted well like all of his other co-stars. So, that one scene, I can go on hours about this. I will just leave you to it. I know it's a very painful part of the show. But I think one of all of my best scenes are coming from the point of whether or not I question if those things can happen, and if my suspension of disbelief is there. And with this scene, it's that. I do not question why Arnav would go to the craziest limits to protect his sister. I do not question the irrationality of his logic then and there. He is traumatized, he cries, he breaks down. You see that how his untreated trauma from 14 years ago takes place, because what he's facing right now is 3 levels of trauma. The woman he loves is apparently the mistress of his jijaji. His jijaji is cheating on his sister. And this is an exact parallel of what he saw between his parents 14 years ago. So there are 3 levels of trauma going on. It's literally the worst day in Arnav's life. And to make it worse, it is his sibling's wedding. Just exactly the scenario that it was 14 years ago. So the way he collapses in the middle of the road, crying, thinking how he fell in love with Khushi, and then building his broken pieces back and channeling that to anger. You know he's going to destroy the world. You know he's going to destroy everything. And I feel it was a great injustice done to plot, done to this scene, done to the actors, that this beautiful, complicated mess that was created in this scene never had a payoff. How can it not have a payoff, guys? Like, this is the only show, I believe, where a misunderstanding was carved so well over a period of about a year, that you kind of do not question it when it happened. In fact, you're kind of horrified because you saw it coming. So, hands down, best Arnav scene. That one scene convinced me for all the hell he's gonna let loose. And very few shows convince me of what a character is about to do, especially when the character is flawed or making irrational decisions. And with that, I come to an end of this 11-year celebration, and look out for the surprise that I post a few hours later. You thought you'll like me speaking in your ears for about an hour? Now check me out speaking about IPK, specifically episode per episode, in a live commentary status very soon. Thank you all. Thank you all for your views, for your likes, for your comments. I read all of them. Thank you for keeping patience with me. And see you soon in a few hours. Bye bye and keep rubbing. Okay, let me give some love to everyone. Love to my best friend who watches this, Radhe. Lots of love. Love to my mother who also watches this. Love to Bud Bro with the F. Yes, I know you watch this. Lots of love to you and lots of love to my regulars. I have a terrible memory. Right now, I can only remember these three. I will remember everyone else as I go by. Love to A, Ariba, I love you. Love to Riz as well. And love to everybody who watches this. Bye-bye.